Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the first episode of story in which Minato wasn't too trusting. The Kyuubi wasn't what they all thought. With a seal that can do more than just hold the Kyuubi, Naruto will become what he was meant to be. No matter how much it costs him. Now with a will to become strong enough to protect those precious to him, he will reach new heights. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this show going. The Ondime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was preparing the seal that would defeat the Kyuubi no Yoko. He was 6 feet 1 inch with a medium build and spiky blonde hair down to the back of his neck. His beautiful red-headed wife Kushina Uzumaki lay next to their newborn son, telling him all the things she wished she would be able to do for him. She was dying after having the Kyuubi ripped out of her by an unknown figure wearing an orange spiraling mask. Minato was originally planning on using the Reaper Death Seal and split the Kyuubi's chakra, but Kushina had pointed out a better way, if time allowed, and he was determined to make it work. The Kyuubi had not yet appeared, but they were sure it would not be long now. This new seal he was frantically working to complete was going to be the achievement of a lifetime. It would provide their son with all their ninja knowledge and all their best techniques and jutsus. On each of his birthdays it would release shadow clones of them and tell him about them and who they were starting when he turned 5. It was also designed to use the Kyuubi's chakra to make sure any harm that came to their son would be healed completely. Minato loved his village and its people, but he was no fool. He knew people would blame their son and he could never live with himself if he didn't do everything in his power to help his son. This seal was going to be his final masterpiece. It would have chakra suppression seals that would take fully half his chakra every day and store until he was asleep, then force it back into him slowly to forcefully expand his chakra coils to give him an unheard of capacity. It would stop functioning when he was approximately 14 unless he chose otherwise. By then he would have reserves equal to that of a mid-level Baijuo. With this he also included a control seal that will remain until he is around 18 to be able to fully control his reserves. He will still never be able to do a regular clone, but then again no Uzumaki can. It would also give the Kyuubi more freedom than its last seal. It would have 10 purification seals that would turn the Kyuubi's yokai into pure life force. He was unsure of what all the life force energy would be capable of, but he knew it had the ability to completely heal and revitalize someone. It would then store it in 5, what he called, resurrection seals, enabling him to heal from wounds that to other people would mean certain death. These seals would take about a month to refill, but all of them could refill at the same time. Kushina prayed they would never have to be used but wanted them nonetheless, so she would have some peace of mind. He decided to make it so he could use up to 3 of them to save someone else's life if he wanted to, so that he could save his friends. It would not only heal them, but it would also purify their body of all diseases and outside influences. He also included a seal that could turn his chakra into medical chakra, that way he didn't have to use his resurrection seals unless it was dire. Included were chakra masking seals so he wouldn't draw too much attention from Dujutsu users until he was able to handle it and to keep sensors from going crazy when near him. He even made a camouflage seal that could hide him completely, that way could be used to escape trouble. However, it could only function for a short length of time before it would need a cool-down period of sorts. He theorized the usable length of time would increase as Naruto's body grew and could take the strain, as well as learning to control his massive chakra reserves. He included a genjutsu sensor seal. The seal would sense foreign chakra entering his system and automatically use either his chakra or the Kyuubi's to dispel it. Only very subtle genjutsu would have any effect, but he would still more than likely be able to sense them. His final addition was to put progressive gravity and resistance seals that would activate when he turned 5. Due to the healing factor of the Kyuubi, they would be able to increase at a steady rate that would be much faster than anybody else could handle. He would not be told about them until he was 12. In order for these not to be a danger, they would deactivate when a large amount of adrenaline was detected. He also was going to allow the Kyuubi to deactivate them in case the danger was unknown to Naruto. This would give him extra strength and speed without anybody learning of the seal's existence. His final addition was to make the seals invisible except for the base one that would hold the Kyuubi to prevent them from being copied by anyone. The others would probably show up when they were used, but that was just the nature of seals. As he is doing this, Kushina was trying her best not to cry at having to leave her son. Her only solace is that the new seal they had come up with keep her son safe and her husband out of the Shinigami's stomach, so they could be together in the afterlife and watch over their son together. As she laid there just holding and being with her son, she couldn't help but think about the reason she had managed to live for the last several hours, besides the fact that she was in Uzumaki, as opposed to dying right away like most Jinchurikis would have. Flashback: she was chained to a rock as the man in a spiraling orange mask was attempting to break the seal that held the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi for its part was doing everything in its power to stay in the seal. When the Kyuubi realized that it would not be able to stop itself from being removed, it did the next best things it could think of. It pumped about 3 taels worth of power into a storage area in the seal that would keep Kushina alive for a few days in the hopes that she would be able to reseal it back inside of her. With a parting of "Sorry my old friend, I can do no more," the Kyuubi was removed. And flashback after that, she had seen her old friend controlled and forced to kill her. Minato had shown up and rescued her and taken her to their safe house where their child was. After a short discussion of what they knew, they determined the most likely thing the masked man had planned was to attack Konoha with a controlled Kyuubi, and they knew they would, most likely, not be able to reseal it into Kushina. She would have to use the remaining chakra she had, along with what the Kyuubi had left her, to hold it in place long enough to seal it. With these final decisions, they started to devise a plan to save their home. Kushina was sad she would not be there for him as he grew, but she knew that the Kyuubi would take care of him and give him a friend the same way it had done for her. 10 minutes before Minato had the seal complete, they heard the sound that they had been fearing. The Kyuubi roared into the sky, doing everything in its power to warn people that they needed to run and letting Minato and Kushina know that it had arrived. On the battlefield, the ninja did everything they could to slow it down in order to give the civilians more time to flee. Jutsu after jutsu was thrown at the Kyuubi, but they were no more annoying than a mosquito bite to it. Calls of "We must hold out until the fourth arrives and defend Konoha at all costs" were heard echoing across the battlefield. The Sundaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, stood on the wall above massive gates waiting for the Kyuubi to make a direct attempt on the village. As he stood there awaiting the inevitable, he muttered to himself, "Minato, where are you? Your village needs you. I don't understand how this happened. I thought the Kyuubi was happy with Kushina. With you there, the seal should never have broken." It was at this time Jiraiya arrived next to him. "I have a message from Minato. He says he needs 5 more minutes to finish his plan," Jiraiya informs him. "I fear that maybe 4 minutes too long," says Hiruzen as the Kyuubi arrives at the village gates. Summoning Enma and having him transform in the adamantine staff, he attempts to halt the beast, only to be flung back several blocks with nothing but a sonic roar that destroys everything in its path. This caused the first of many civilian casualties that night. Hiruzen tries to push the Kyuubi back by extending his staff, only to meet it in a brief stalemate before Jiraiya steps in. Tauntaun Swamp of the underworld rings out as the ground under the Kyuubi is liquefied and it starts to sink. In response, the Kyuubi launches a massive fire attack at the ground, overpowering and cancelling Jiraiya's out, while starting fires all over Konoha. The Kyuubi starts charging up its ultimate attack, the Baijou Udama, and aims it directly at the Hokage monument where the Yondaime Hokage has just arrived. Using his teleportation seal, Minato teleports the attack away from the village so it only damages the forest. He then appears above the Kyuubi, summoning Game Abunta. "What the hell is going on here?" Game Abunta asks as he sees the destruction of the village. "And why am I sitting on top of the Kyuubi no Yoko?" He continues as the entirety of the situations becomes clear to him. "Game Abunta-sama, I need your help. I need you to hold it down as long as you can so I can prepare to move us to the sealing area I have set up." "Very well, Minato, I will try, but don't expect a miracle. Even I can't keep up with the Kyuubi for long. Any time you can give me will be a big help." He started gathering chakra in preparation to teleport the Kyuubi to the sealing area. Just as he finished, Game Abunta was forced to desummon and return to home to heal. He had taken quite a beating from the Kyuubi's tails while trying to hold it down. With no time to delay, he jumped to the top of the Kyuubi that was currently using his tails to smash both business and residential areas simultaneously. In a brilliant yellow flash, both the Kyuubi and Yondaime disappeared from the village and reappeared near Minato's safe house where Kushina and the blonde child were waiting. Most of the ninjas began to cheer and celebrate, thinking that the fight was over, but Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and most of the Anbu knew different and took off through the trees to get to where they sensed the creature. Outside safe house, in a bright flash, they appeared just as Kushina started to form her chains to hold the Kyuubi down. It was at this point the genjutsu place on the Kyuubi loosed just enough for it to speak. "Minato, Kushina, I am sorry, I cannot control myself. You need to seal me so this cursed genjutsu will wear off completely. Can you put me back into Kushina?" "I'm afraid we cannot. You are too strong for me to hold and seal at the same time, and Kushina would need to stop using chakra in order for it to be successful. Our only choice is to seal you into our son. But this will probably take all my chakra and we will not be able to be there for him. Can I trust you to take care of him in our place?" Minato asked as he prepared the ritual altar. "You have my word that I will do everything in my power to make sure that he is well cared for and safe." "Thank you, old friend, I will miss you, but we will be watching," says Kushina. The rest is going to go as canon with the claw when the genjutsu takes hold again and the speeches. I can't bear to write all that when most of you should already know it or have read it multiple times. Council chambers next day. The newly reinstated Sun Daime Hokage walked in carrying a small blonde child. The rest of the council that had been arguing about the best course of action to rebuild both the village and ninja force. Hiruzen sat down and called for silence. First thing first, what are the reported casualties? He asked. One of the elderly advisors named Homura, a man who had been on the Sun Daime's Jinan team, spoke up. The death toll is currently 6,000 civilians and 4,000 shinobi, but expected to grow. That's fully 1/4 of our forces. Another 3,000 civilians were injured along with another 2,000 shinobi. 300 buildings were destroyed or damaged to the point where they will have to torn down and rebuilt, and another 1,500 sustained damage of some kind that is repairable. Hiruzen pinched the bridge of his nose. So many dead. This will make things hard for years to come, and that's not even taking into account when the other villages find out if they decide to attack. Kami, I hope I can still do this. As this was going on, the little blonde child started to fuss and make noise, alerting everyone to his presence. It was at this point that his other Jinan team member spoke up, as she, her name being Koharu, was his other advisor. Hokage-sama, who is this child you're holding and why have you brought him to this meeting? Dreading the response, Hiruzen braced himself and began his explanation. This child is the hero who saved us all from the Kyuubi. This got him a lot of curious looks, and at the council urging, he continued. The shinobi all know this, but just to give a refresher to everyone, it is impossible to kill by Juo. If you do manage to destroy their physical body, it will reform in the same place in about 3-7 years. This truth, gasps Mosh of the civilian side. What do you mean in the same place? The fourth killed it, there is no other explanation, shouted one very fat merchant. We must find a way to stop this, shouted another. Silence, shouted Hiruzen. Now if you will all give a minute to finish, it will become clear, he said. Looking around, seeing everyone paying attention, he continues. The only way to stop a Baijiu from reforming is to seal it in a container. Now the one-tailed and even the two-tailed can be sealed in special made urns or containers. The three-tailed and up must be sealed in a living being, preferably human, so as to stop the Baijiu from taking control. At this point Danzo Shimori interrupted him to ask the question that the Hokage had been dancing around. Are you saying that this boy is now the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko? He asked while his mind was coming up with ways that he could get the boy into his care. He could turn him into his perfect weapon and use him to take the Hokage seat. After Danzo said that, all hell broke loose. The entire civilian side was calling for his blood. We must kill the demon, screeched a pink-haired woman. The Ondaime made it weak so we can kill it, said another. He turned it into a child to make invulnerable, shouted the third. Hiruzen was beyond furious and blasted them, killing while calling for silence. No one, and I repeat, no one is going to harm this child. It was Minato's wish that he be seen as a hero for bearing such a heavy burden. If these are the reactions I can expect for all of you, then I am going to make a few new laws right now. 1. It will be punishable by death to tell the younger generation about him containing the Kyuubi. 2. It will also be punishable by death to tell the child about what he carries. At this, many looked upset but decided it was not the time to test the Hokage, as he was in a rather foul mood. Everyone at this point was wondering what he would do with the child. Danzo wanted to bring up the subject but knew that if he did it would make him appear eager and cast suspicions on his motives. Finally, after almost 2 minutes of silence, Inoiki Yamanaka, the head of the Yamanaka clan, decided to speak. What is it you are going to do with him? He could be placed with one of the clans to be raised and trained to be a shinobi. At this notion, Fugaku Uchiha devised a plan. If he could get the Jinchuriki, he would be able to mold him into a weapon of absolute loyalty. He decided to act quickly in order to set his plan in motion. The Uchiha would be willing to raise the boy as if he is one of our own. I have a son who is his age that he would be able to grow up with and see as a brother, Fugaku stated. At this point, Hiyashi Hyuga decided to speak up. The Hyuga would also take him. He could receive the best training and placed within the branch family, as all the other clan leaders at this point tried to give a reason why they could be best. Hiruzen called for silence. No clan shall be taking this boy. It would tip the balance of power and make one clan far more powerful than any of the others. At this, Danzo saw his chance. I could take the boy. Give him to me and let me raise and train him. He will be the ultimate weapon for Konoha in the future and will be taught how to completely control the Kyuubi, he said with almost the smallest hint of a smirk. At this suggestion, many of the civilians started to murmur about that maybe being the best option. Hiruzen would not hear of it. I will not let you turn this boy into another one of your mindless drones to be your personal attack dog. He will be placed in the orphanage where he can have a normal childhood with the other kids that will no doubt be there after this horrible tragedy. Some of the civilians tried to argue this point, but he refused to budge. Danzo meanwhile went back to scheming, planning to kidnap the boy in a few years when he would not need to have some care for him for the entire day. He figured that 5 years should be enough time to set his plans in motion. After this, the meeting was called to a close as Hiruzen could listen to the fools for no longer. He decided that tomorrow he would take the boy to the orphanage. Next day, orphanage, Hiruzen handed the boy to the matron at the orphanage, asking her to take good care of him and to speak to no one of the Hokage, delivering him to her. He now had no whisker marks and traditional Uzumaki red hair. The matron asked his name and was given the response Naruto Uzumaki. 5 years later, children run for many reasons. Playing tag, finding a place to hide while playing hide and go seek, racing to get to the park to play, or even just racing to see who is faster. The boy we find running now is not playing a game of any sort. He is fleeing as several drunk civilians trying to, at least what they said anyway, finish the Yondame's job, and get the demon brat. Semi-flashback. This was a relatively new phenomenon to the boy. Until about 6 months ago he was treated just like every other child in the orphanage. That is until his hair turned blonde and whisker mark appeared on his face. When this happened, the matron went to the Hokage to ask what could have happened. Unfortunately, when she could not find the Hokage, she settled for his advisors, even after she was told never to divulge information on that child to anyone but him, fearing that his health may be at stake. When she told Homura and Koharu, their eyes widened for a brief second as they put together who the boy was almost instantly. They assured her that everything should be fine and they would look into it. They then proceeded to tell the civilian side of the council and Danzo of their discovery. The reactions were mixed. They had been looking for the boy for over 4 years and had no luck finding him. No child matching their given description was ever spotted at any of the orphanages. But now, out of nowhere, someone came in telling them of a child that had changed overnight to look like the one they were seeking. It was obvious that the Sundaime had placed a genjutsu on the child to change his appearance. What they didn't know was that it only worked on adults. The rest of the children saw Naruto for who he was, and he had become friend with many of the clan children already. He had played with them in the park several times a week from the time they were 3. Danzo had shown up the next day and attempted to adopt the boy. The matron, who was a bit suspicious, started the process and told him to come back a few times over the next week to get to know the boy to help him adjust to the change. The final day he was to visit and take Naruto home was the same day the Hokage had showed up to reinforce the genjutsu he used to change Naruto's appearance. When he got there and realized it slipped, he asked the matron if any parties had suddenly expressed interest in him. She showed him the forms that were being filed for his adoption, the same form she had sent to him but never arrived. He didn't recognize the name and decided he had better wait for the person to show up. If this was a real family that just wanted to give him a home, he would be more than happy to allow it, after he ran some of his own checkups on them, of course. But he had sinking feeling that it was someone with less than pure intentions. Hiding himself in the shadows, he waited until door opened to reveal Danzo. When he asked the matron if Naruto was ready to go with a big smirk on his face, Hiruzen nearly lost it. At this moment he stepped out of the shadows and confronted Danzo. To say Danzo was surprised was an understatement. Hiruzen very carefully explained to Naruto, who had arrived in the meantime, that Danzo would not be able to adopt Naruto because he was becoming very sick and didn't want to take the chance that Naruto would catch it. The irony was not lost on Danzo. Hiruzen then quickly and quietly whispered in Danzo's ear, "If you so much as attempt to contact Naruto again, I will personally kill you and all of you root agents." "That's right, I know you didn't dismantle it like I ordered. This is no threat, it is a promise." With that, Hiruzen turned to Naruto and asked if he would like to get some lunch as an apology for what had happened. Danzo hadn't moved, still frozen at what he heard. He was not scared. Death didn't scare him. He was surprised that Hiruzen had found his backbone again. Seeing that he would not win this day, he went back to his plotting. He knew he could not openly defy or oppose Hiruzen. He was called the Shinobi no Kami, the god of shinobi, for a reason. After that, Naruto's life had taken a turn for the worst. The nice matron had been removed through action on the part of the civilian council and Danzo, who decided if he couldn't get to Naruto, he'd try to make Naruto come to him. He wanted his weapon. They replaced the kind matron with one of their own choosing. She was someone that saw Naruto as the Kyuubi and treated him as such. She told the other kids to stay away from him and started kicking him out when she was teaching the other kids. At first Naruto thought he did something to make her mad, but when he tried to apologize, she told him she didn't care what a demon like him had to say. Naruto was reduced to playing alone unless he went to the park. Even some of his friends had their parent pull them away from now that they could see what he really looked like. His only friends that remained were a little girl with blue hair, pale skin, and lavender eyes with no visible pupil named Hinata Hyuga, Hinata's 2-year-old sister with brown hair and the same eyes Hanabi Hyuga, a blonde-hair girl with blue eyes and no pupil named Ino Yamanaka, a rather plump with swirls on his cheeks named Kujiaki Michi, and a boy with his dark hair tied up looking like the top of a pineapple named Shikamaru Nara. These were the only parents who would let them kids play with him. All the other parents pulled their kids away. And flashback today is Naruto's 5th birthday and he thought that maybe today would be a good day. All his other birthdays had been. There was always a festival on his birthday and he loved to go. He had been walking through the festival when he was spotted and arrived in his current situation. As Naruto was running he realized that while he was staying ahead of most of the stumbling crowd there were a few that seemed to be keeping pace with him easily. After all, how fast can a 5-year-old run? What he didn't know is that they were herding him to a less crowded area away from the Anbu and Uchiha police watching the festival. When they finally got him far enough away they cornered him in an alley with a dead end. Only about 12 people of the mob remained. In that mob were 4 Genin, 3 Chunin, a Jonin, and 4 civilians who were not drunk. The Genins and civilians went in first with nothing but punches and kicks with their bare hands. After a few minutes, which were filled with Naruto's pain screams, when he was injured to run away or fight back, having a broken nose, leg, and arm, they backed off. At this time the Chunins took their turn. Using kunai they speared his hands to the ground, getting the loudest scream of his life. They then proceeded to start making shallow incisions all over him with kunai coated in a poison meant to cause pain, not death. After just a few long minutes Naruto passed out due to the pain. The attackers did not care in the least. If anything they were emboldened. He couldn't scream now but would still feel everything later. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto found himself in a dying forest more confused than he had been in his whole life. He was trying to piece together how he got there and the last thing he could remember was the worst pain he had ever felt. He looked down and didn't see any wounds or scars and became even more confused. It was at this point that he noticed that the leaves on the trees were pulsing with 2 different auras, one red and one blue. As he was trying to figure out the cause when he heard his name being called, it was faint and he could only just discern the direction. Naruto, follow the sound of my voice. Yes, you are almost here, spoke the deep voice as Naruto neared an impassable grove of trees. Coming around a grove of trees that he could not see through, Naruto saw a massive steel-barred fence that looked like a huge animal pen. The bars were 500 feet tall and spaced with about 6 feet between them. The pen had to be large enough to fit the Hokage monument inside. It had a gate that appeared to be held together with just a piece of paper with the kanji for seal. After taking this in, Naruto noticed a fox with a human-like torso sitting near the gate with his tail swing haphazardly behind him. At first Naruto didn't know what to think until he decided to count his tails. He counted 9. He began to back up. "Why you the 9th-tailed fox?" he asked, trembling with fear. "Yes, I am the great Kyuubi no Yoko," the fox replied. "Why did those people bring me here? Are you going to kill me?" He asked the first part more to himself than the fox, but it heard nonetheless. This confused the Kyuubi if only for a second. In truth it was expecting the boy today, hence why it was at the gate, but it now dawned on him that the boy was about 4 hours early. At this odd occurrence the fox decided to ask the obvious question. "What do you mean those people brought you here?" "I was chased through the Kyuubi festival by a bunch of people. When I ran down a dead-end alley, they started to hit me and the 2 of them stabbed me with knives I see those ninja use through my hands, and then I woke up here." Naruto explained. This caused the fox to bristle in rage, effectively scarring Naruto. Realizing its mistake, the Kyuubi immediately lowered its killing intent. "I guess I may as well start the explanations now. Those people did not bring you anywhere. In fact, they are most likely still torturing your body. This is your mindscape. We are inside your head." At this Naruto didn't know what to say as he tried to absorb this information. He was a bit scared that the people outside would kill him, but he was thankful that he wasn't feeling it. After processing that information he had to ask, "How did I get here? How did you get here? Why does it look like this place is dying? What's going to happen to me? Why aren't you dead?" The Kyuubi decided to slow him down before he got too far into a panic. "First off, I am not sure how you got here. It may be in response to the pain. Second, how I got here will be explained later. Third, this place is a representation of you. 6 months ago the place was green and beautiful. It looks like this because of how you have changed in the last 6 months. I don't know what has been happening, but it is not good. Fourth, you will be just fine. I can sense your injuries and healing them just enough so you survive, but not enough for people outside to see. Lastly, you can't kill me, not permanently at least." After explaining this, Kyuubi decided that there was something he needed to do. "I can sense they have left outside. I will send back and talk to you tonight when you go to sleep. I am sorry, but this will hurt." When you wake up you need to use this hand sign and say Resurrection Seal Kai. I will take care of the rest. When the Kyuubi was sure Naruto understood and could do as he was told, it pushed him out of his mindscape. Meanwhile outside, after stabbing the kunai through his hands, the Chunin proceeded to stab his arms and leg, repeatedly working their way in. When one of them got too excited and decided to cut his throat, the Jonin stopped them. Are you too insane? If you kill him here, in 3 years he will reappear in his full demon form back to full power. This caused a Chunin to step away while the Jonin performed a quick Katen jutsu to cauterize his wounds so he wouldn't bleed out, but still be in pain. After this they quickly fled the scene, as the use of chakra would have no doubt alerted the Anbu. A dog-masked and weasel-masked Anbu landed in the Allion moments later. Dog asked, "Are you sure this is where it came from?" "Yes," replied Weasel. After a quick check of the ally, they notice what looks like a burnt pile of tattered clothes. When they get up to it, they find it is a child that they both recognize. Naruto. "Weasel, you report this to Hokage-sama, I will get him to the hospital." Dog got out before scooping Naruto and body flickers towards the hospital. Weasel then does the same, but heading to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Weasel body flickers directly into the Hokage office, appearing on one knee. "Hokage-sama," he says in a frantic tone. "Worrying what might happen if Naruto doesn't make it." "Yes, what is it, Weasel?" asks Hiruzen with a little bit of worry in his voice. Weasel is one of his best operatives, and if he is shaken then it can't be good news. Naruto Uzumaki has been attacked, he says, only to almost faint at the massive amount of killing intent suddenly coming from the Hokage. "Where is he?" he yells, trying to rein in his anger so Weasel can speak. Dog has taken him to the hospital. He manages to get out. No sooner than he says that Hiruzen is gone already at the hospital with speed even Weasel can't hope to match. Hospital. When Dog arrives at the hospital with a severely burned boy, he is immediately taken into an operating room. After 5 minutes the Hokage arrives in an uproar when he sees Dog and no Naruto. "Dog, where is he?" "They took him into an operating room about 3 minutes ago, Hokage-sama," Dog tells him. This eases his mind a little as he sits outside, makes sure only necessary staff can enter the room. It seemed like days, but really it is only about an hour and a half when they wheel Naruto out of the room looking a lot worse for the wear. The Hokage sees this and instantly begins to ask questions. "Why is he still in this condition?" he asks, trying to keep the venom out of his voice. "We were not able to do any more at this time. His injuries are too extensive and he is too fragile to operate on right now. The best we could do was to stabilize him and try to keep him sedated, but even that is proving hard as he seems to burn through it very quickly. However, his injuries seem to be healing on their own faster than most of us could do it for him," the doctor reported. They wheeled him into a room and started to set up the monitoring equipment when they witnessed a sight that they could neither explain or comprehend. Naruto woke up. An ear-piercing scream let everyone know he was awake. The doctor started to call for sedation when he saw Naruto reach for his IV. He grabbed the boy's hand to stop him and was rewarded with another scream. "You must leave it. It will help the pain go away," the doctor frantically tried to reason with him. But the blonde would have no part of it. "Take it out," he ground out through gritted teeth. "I can fix this by myself. Just take it out." Naruto screeches at the top of his lungs. Hearing this, the Hokage was curious. The look in Naruto's eyes told that Naruto really thought he could. He decided to give him his chance. The sedation was coming and they could always just inject it straight from a needle and replace his IV later. Really anything that the boy wanted at this point he would allow if he thought it would ease his pain. Hiruzen motioned for the doctor to remove it and give the boy his chance. After it was quickly removed, Naruto brought his hands together in a hand sign and whispered, "Resurrection Seal Kai." The doctor only heard the Kai, but the Hokage heard the whole thing and his eyes widened for a moment, wondering what was going to happen, having never heard of something like that and wondering where Naruto would have heard of or even received a seal like that. He certainly didn't do it himself. As soon as Naruto said Kai, a blinding golden light washed over him, forcing everybody to look away. It went on for a full minute, swirling and pulsing, making even the Hokage sweat from the amount of power that was swirling around the child. When the minute was up and the light died down, they looked to see Naruto sitting up on the bed as if nothing happened. His clothes were torn, ripped, and bloody, but his skin was completely healed and he seemed to be awake and full of energy. Everybody in the room minus Naruto just stood there with their jaws on the floor. They had never seen anything like that. It would take even the toughest Jonin's weeks to be sitting up, let alone be fully healed. He was smiling and trying to mask his pain, but it still shone through in his eyes. His physical pain may be gone, but the emotional pain would take considerably longer to heal. Hiruzen saw this and felt a pang of guilt that he had failed to stop this from happening and keep him safe. He had done so well for 4.5 years, then somehow the genjutsu he had placed on Naruto had worn off 2 weeks early. He had gone over it in his head but came up with nothing but blanks. He was going to reapply it, but the council had already spread what both versions looked like and his name. So he had settled for assigning Anbu protection to him. He decided that he needed to speak with the boy alone. After asking the doctor to check him over then leave, he sat down on a chair next to the bed and began. "Naruto-kun, do you remember what happened?" Hiruzen asked. Hoping that he both did, so he could punish those responsible, and didn't, so he would not have to live with the memories of the terrible things that had done to him. A quick flash in Naruto's eyes told him that Naruto remembered everything. "Some ninjas chased me away from the festival. They started to hit me, then two of them stabbed those ninja knives through my hands and started to cut me everywhere with a few more. Then I passed out. When I woke up I was here and in a lot more pain." Hiruzen could tell it was taking everything he had to hold himself together. It broke the old Hokage's heart to see Naruto in such a state. It almost pained him to have to continue this conversation. "How did you recover so fast? It sounded like you released a seal of some kind." It was then that he noticed a slight hesitation that he had never seen in Naruto before. He had always responded to his questions right away. Whether it was from the pain of the memory or something he didn't want to tell him, the Hokage didn't. "No. Kid, don't jump and don't say anything. You cannot tell him that you know of me yet. Everything will be explained tonight. Tell him something in the back of your mind just made you do it. Make it vague." Hearing the QB made him hesitate for a few moments before he answered. "I don't know. Something in the back on my head made me feel like it would take the pain away." The Hokage narrowed his eyes ever so slightly. He could see that either something Naruto said was a lie or that part of the truth was missing. The fact that he couldn't tell which unnerved him. He was the Hokage and couldn't read the face of a 5-year-old boy. He decided to give Naruto his privacy, as this had already been a hard enough night and prying might make it worse. He did however decide to keep a closer eye on the boy, not only to keep him safe but to make sure that nothing was influencing Naruto's decisions. "Okay Naruto-kun. The doctor said that you were free to go. Let me walk you back to the orphanage since it's late and we don't want anything more to happen tonight," Hiruzen said with a smile, trying to reassure the boy by telling he would be there, but it immediately turned to a look of confusion when Naruto looked down and let out a sniffle. "What is it Naruto-kun?" he asked with a great amount of concern in his voice. "I can't go back there. They told me a demon like you isn't welcome here before they threw me out." He managed to get out through the sniffles. At hearing this, Sarutobi was now royally pissed. "I can't believe that ignorance of those council members. Putting him through this because they are too stupid to see the difference between the scroll and the kunai." With this thought he determined another course of action must be taken. "How about I get you your own place then?" he asked, trying to gauge the boy's mood by his reaction. When Naruto just smiled and nodded, he felt a small measure of relief. Taking the boy by the hand and leading him to his new home. Naruto's new apartment, it wasn't much to look at. That was probably the best thing that you could be said about it. It wasn't that it was run down as much as the fact that it was just old. It showed its age too. It was in probably the oldest building in Konoha. The reason for this being it was the only place that would accept Naruto, especially at this late hour and on this day in particular. Naruto didn't care though. He had a place he could call his own. After saying his thanks for the help, he found himself very tired. It turns out the energy that he felt after releasing one of his resurrection seals had worn off and he finally felt the stress of the day. As he laid down to go to sleep, he wondered if he would ever be able to go back to the way things had been before they started calling him a demon. Hokage's office. Sarutobi was furious. He was going to get to the bottom of what happened if it took all night. He had summoned Dog and Weasel, who now stood before him. "Dog, Weasel, report. What happened tonight? Why did you leave your assignment of guarding Naruto, only for him to be assaulted in this manner?" he asked, trying to keep his anger in check. These were his two best operatives and for their sake they better have a good reason for leaving him. Dog stepped up. "While we were keeping watch, a fight broke out between approximately 35 Shinobis. The other Anbu and Uchiha police were overwhelmed. We decided that it would be prudent to step in and assist." After finishing, he motioned for Weasel to continue. "We have since come to believe that it may have been a ploy to divert out attention away from Naruto. They used our distraction to chase Naruto away from the crowded areas. After breaking up the fight, we went looking for Naruto. When we sensed a large chakra usage several blocks away, we went to investigate," stated Weasel. Dog picked up again. "It was at this point that we found Naruto. He had been the victim of a long torture session and then they used a Kaden jutsu to stop the bleeding to make sure that he would survive. This last part was the most disturbing. If what they suspected was true, that would mean some of his own ninja have started a fight with plans of it getting out of control, by involving other shinobi that had no part in their plan, in order to cause a distraction large enough to pull these two away. To make things worse, they didn't want to kill him. They wanted him to suffer and live. They may have even believed that those injuries would be permanent, especially the burns. It would have been a miserable life had he not been able to heal himself the way he did. As these thoughts were running through his head, he was becoming both more enraged and burdened with guilt for failing his successor. "Minato, if you could see me now you would be ashamed." After a heavy sigh he spoke, "I want you two to ignore any fights between shinobi and or civilians while Naruto is in the vicinity from now on. I have a feeling this may happen again. I do, however, want you to give the illusion that your attention has been drawn. Let's see if we can make an example out the next people to try it. Dog, you are dismissed." "Hi Hokage-sama." Dog then salutes the Hokage and flickers out of his office. After this Hiruzen makes a motion and dismisses the Danzo guards stationed in the room. He puts up a privacy barrier. "Weasel, remove your mask," Sarutobi commands. Weasel follows the order to reveal the face, a young teenager with black eyes, tear tracks, and a serious expression. This was the face of Itachi Uchiha. "What have you to report on the other matter?" Sarutobi asked cryptically. They continue down the fool's path. "I fear that they are only a few years from truly being lost." Itachi replied in kind. "Very well. We must prepare for the worst." "Do they still plan to use him as a weapon?" Hiruzen asks. "I am afraid now more than ever they believe they can. They think I will bring him when the time comes and control him for their bidding," replied Itachi. "It cannot be helped then. We will continue to try to diplomacy up to the last reasonable moment, but after that I am afraid I will have to take action," Hiruzen warned. "I just hope it never comes to that, as do Itachi, as do I." Naruto's mindscape. Naruto awoke in the dying forest again and headed towards the gate he found last time. When he got there this time the Kyuubi wasn't alone. Standing in front of the cage was a tall man with spiky blonde hair and beautiful woman with waist-length blood-red hair. Naruto recognized the man easy enough. It was his hero, the Yondaime Hokage. As he got closer he could see they were talking to the Kyuubi and did not look happy. When they noticed his approach they immediately quit talking and turned to face him, seeing confusion in his expression. No one spoke for a few moments until the woman could no longer contain herself. She ran to Naruto faster than he could see and swept him up in a hug. "I'm so glad I finally get to see you," cried the woman with tears running down her face. At first Naruto didn't know what to do. He started to struggle to get away, but after he realized that she wasn't trying to hurt him he calmed down. Who are you and how did you get here?" he asked, very confused at what was happening. This only made the woman squeal about how cute he was and hug him tighter. He started feeling the need for air. A part of him would wonder how that was possible after he learned that this was his mindscape. After being released from the hug she set him down and decided to try to get this awkward part over as soon as possible. "My name is Kushina Uzumaki and I am your mother, Naruto-kun." It was this sentence that would change his life forever. At first he was uncertain of how to react. Several emotions went through him all at once: happiness, confusion, anger, disappointment. After a moment, when he gathered his thoughts, he asked the first question that any kid was asked. "How can you be my mother? She is dead. And if you weren't dead, where have you been?" That was what he'd been told his entire life, and he was having a hard time believing what she said was true. Her face turned at a small frown as she began her explanation. "Naruto-kun, what I am going to tell you will be hard to believe at first, but just let me explain before you ask any questions. First, I am dead." Hearing that, Naruto jumped back. "Ghost!" he screamed while cowering away from her. Kushina only giggled a little before continuing, "I am only partially here. I am sorry that we couldn't be there for you. Given what happened, this was the best we could manage. I am only a part my previous self, a soul shard. I tore off a piece of my soul in order to see you when you would be old enough to understand. I am not a ghost." Kushina explained. Naruto, who relaxed a little as the blonde man walked up to them. "Okay, if you're my mother, then why is the fourth Hokage here?" he asked, trying to piece things together. "That's an easy question to answer. I am your father, Naruto-kun," stated the Yondaime. As Naruto tried to start questioning him, he was silenced by the blonde man. "Let your mother and I explain before you ask too many questions so that we can make the best use of our time here." They explained the event that led up to the sealing and how they sealed part of their souls in him so they could see him on all his birthdays and hopefully teach him few things about their lives to give him some semblance of family. They told him about how he would slowly absorb their skills and knowledge of jutsus and techniques. They, however, could decide when he was ready for certain ones, which he would only be shown during one of their meetings. After this explanation, Naruto was starting to get excited. "Wait until I tell people I'm your son. There's no way they'll be mean to me after that." His hopes were quickly dashed. "I am afraid you can't tell anyone about us, Naruto-kun. We had many powerful enemies that are no doubt still alive and would stop at nothing to kill or kidnap you just for being our son. You have to promise me you won't tell." Not until you are strong enough to handle our enemies or be able to run away at least. And you can't tell anyone you know about the big guy here until you're older." He points to the QB, "and I wouldn't tell anybody unless you are absolutely sure you can trust them." "Okay, I promise I won't say anything," he says while staring at the ground, feeling and looking his favorite toy had just been taken away. "This is for your own good, Naruto. In time, when you get stronger, you'll be able to tell people." After this they showed Naruto how to unlock his chakra and a few chakra exercises to do in order to gain better control and grow his chakra. They of course left out the seal that would take half his chakra every day. His mother gave him some ideas for pranks he could pull on people who were mean to him or just for fun, much to the chagrin of his father. Next was the conversation about his possible bloodlines. "Naruto-kun, there is a good chance that you are going to develop two bloodlines. The first being the Uzumaki chakra chains that when properly trained, are pretty much unbreakable. Only certain Uzumakis get these and there is a very good chance you will have them since I did. You can't let anyone ever see these because they will know right away who you really are," said Kushina, trying to impress upon him how important this was. "You may also develop the Sharingan." At this Naruto flipped. "I'm an Uchiha. Why do they treat me so bad if I am one of them?" He puzzled. "They don't know that you are. Just like they didn't know that I was. My father left the clan long ago and I never belonged to the clan." His father explained. At hearing this, Naruto asked the obvious follow-up question. "Who is your father?" "Madara Uchiha, but he died fighting Hashirama Senju at the end of that valley place." This shocked both of his parents at how smart he was. The Valley of the End. And no, he didn't. He was critically injured. He gave up fighting after that, but he taught me how to be a ninja before he died. He brought me to the village before he died and told me never to reveal my true heritage. Naruto could only nod at this before his mother got his attention. At this point he was not sure what to expect. "Naruto-kun, I think I should tell you about my parents too. My mother's name is Tsunade Senju and my father was named Kenshi Uzumaki. I know Tosan is dead but Kachan may still be alive. But she probably doesn't know about you if you have never met her." As Naruto was taking all this in, Kyuubi decided to speak. "I believe I should introduce myself properly and make a few corrections to your parents' words," the Kyuubi said, getting weird looks from the boy's parents. "My name is Kurama and I will tell you more about myself when we have more time. You will not develop the Sharingan." At this Minato looked disappointed, confused, and started asking questions. "What do you mean he won't develop the Sharingan? Did I mess something up with the seal?" he said frantically, hoping that he didn't cause his son to lose part of who he is. Naruto looked down too, but this didn't last for long. "Let me finish and I will explain. I believe he will develop something called the Rinne-Sharingan, also known as the Shinobi. Eyes of Death. This is a mix of the Rinnegan and Sharingan." Kurama explained. "I don't understand. How is that possible?" asked a very confused Minato. Kurama explained that it was because he was the first to have the blood of the Uzumaki, Senju, and Uchiha since the mother of the Sage of Six Paths. These eyes were something that not even a sage wielded, deciding to elaborate more when Naruto actually awakened them. They then moved on to other matters such using the Kyuubi's chakra. They told him only to use it as a last resort and there was no other way. Kushina showed him another chakra control exercises to push back this chakra should he ever pull too much and lose control, but told him to practice it away from people, just in case, until he mastered it and never where someone could sense him. When their time began to grow short, Minato decided he needed to get in some final explanations before they left. Kurama-san here is not the demon people believe him to be. He was forced to attack the village. At this, Kurama growled at the memory. He was a good friend to your mother and he is going to be your friend and help you. They then told Naruto the full story of what happened the night he was born. Naruto looked up at the massive fox to see him nodding his head and that made him smile. He would finally have a friend. At that time Minato walked over to the gate and ripped a seal off, opening the gate. After their goodbyes, Naruto felt himself being pulled back into the real world. Naruto's bedroom. When Naruto woke up, it was the next morning. Rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, he spoke to himself, "What a weird dream. There's no way they could have really been my parents and the whole Kurama thing. Maybe I hit my head. It was not dream, kid. I am very real." "But you're so big, how do you fit?" asked Naruto. He just couldn't figure it out. Kurama chuckled a little before answering. "Firstly, I am in a seal, as such size doesn't really matter. Second, don't speak out loud when you want to talk to me. Just think what you want to say and I will gear you. Don't want people thinking you've gone crazy or that I have taken you over." Okay, you mean like this?" Naruto tried thinking his words. "Yes, just like that. Now I have a few things to tell you. Since your father opened the seal, you are going to get some of my senses. You should be realizing about now that you can hear, see, and smell much better than before." As Kurama was saying this, Naruto noticed he could smell how old and dusty his apartment was. He could smell the garbage dumpsters outside his apartment complex and even the food that the street vendors were selling a few blocks away thanks to his open window. He noticed that he could hear other people in his apartment complex having the breakfast table conversations. Sadly, many were about how they should move now that the demon lives there. He looked out his window and could see a great amount of detail on the Hokage monument. "You're right, I can, but what is the other feeling I have? It's like I can feel some of the people here are angry and some are happy. There are lots of other weird things too," Naruto said while trying to figure it out. "That is the last sense that you have gained from me, the ability to sense emotions of all kinds, even intentions, to a point. This will make it impossible for someone to sneak up on you, especially if they intend to harm you or someone near you. I see now. That is so cool, I am going to be the best ninja ever," he shouted without loud, only to quickly slap his hand over his mouth. "Oops. Alright, that's enough gloating. Head to a training ground that hasn't been used in a while, we are going to start your tour." Training, Kurama said with an evil smile Naruto could feel. 1 year later, Naruto was running again. It was his 6th birthday and the Kyuubi festival was in full swing. This was the first attempt since his last birthday from anybody trying to hurt him. He knew he could escape from most of the pursuers with ease, but he also noticed that the two Anbu, who had been following him for the last year every time he left his home when he headed into town, were staying with the chase from the shadows. He could feel that they were angry but that it wasn't aimed at him. He would have just lost the others, but he didn't want anybody to know what he could do. Kurama had been working him into the ground 5 days a week and making him eat healthy. Combined with his stamina from being both a Jinchuriki and Uzumaki, he could train for hours every day and still had energy to play with the few remaining friends he had on his off days. He'd mainly focused on chakra control and physical conditioning. He had learned how tree walk and water walk and was about to start on what they called the Academy 3. Henge, substitution, and clone jutsus. They had found that with enough practice he didn't need the control seal for tree and water walking, and that made Naruto was determined not to rely on it. Kurama told him the less he did the better of a ninja he would be. This time Naruto didn't make the mistake of turning down a dead end and instead headed for an open training ground. When he arrived, he turned to face his pursuers. "What do you want with me? I never did anything to you," Naruto snarled out. He knew why they were after him, but he had also figured out that before the Anbu could do anything they had to either attack him or break the Hokage's law about Kurama. "What do we want with? Don't play dumb. You know what you did. You killed my parents' demon," stated a Chunin that was among the group. "We are here to finish what the Ondame started," stated another. Several others had similar things to say as they began to close on him. He wasn't worried though. As soon as they got within striking distance, the two Anbu he sensed flickered between him and the crowd. Within seconds the entire mob was unconscious and on the ground. It was then that the Hokage showed up with 10 more Anbu. "Take these people to Ibiki and tell him to have fun," he sneered. "Hi Hokage-sama," responded the men as they each grabbed 2 members of the mob and flickered away. The Hokage then turned to Naruto. "Are you alright, Naruto-kun?" he asked with worry in his eyes. "I'm fine, Gigi. I am just glad those 2 were following me the whole time. This is the first time anybody has tried to hurt me since my last birthday. I figured it was because they," he motions to Dog and Weasel, "were always following me." At this revelation Hiruzen was quite stunned. A 6-year-old boy knew 2 of his best Anbu had been following him the whole time. Dog and Weasel looked equally stunned, behind their masks, with a little bit of shame thrown in. Hiruzen just had to know how this was possible. "Naruto-kun, how did you know they were there?" Without hesitating he said, "I can hear them." Kurama had told him this would be the best excuse to give because while it was true, it was also the one that would garner the least suspicion. "Naruto-kun, they are 2 of my best. What do you hear when they follow you?" He was not ready for Naruto's response. "Well, Gigi, when they move, they don't make any noise, but their heartbeats always give them away." This seemingly simple answer set the old Hokage's head spinning. He can hear someone's heartbeat. "I wonder if this is because of the fox. It doesn't sound like what I would expect, but I will have to keep better watch from now on." Though Hiruzen, while looking for any trace of a lie, he again saw something that told him he was telling the truth, but that there might be more to it than he let on. 4 months later, rooftop of Naruto's apartment building. Naruto was enjoying the cool night air. This was the first time since his 5th birthday that he didn't see, hear, smell, or sense Dog and Weasel. They had taken off about 20 minutes ago in quite a hurry. Naruto had heard their radios say something about a possible kidnapping in the clan district. He didn't think much of it and used it as an excuse to relax and be himself for the first time in a long time. Sure, he let them see him train, but to the outside observer it looked just like anything that the clan children would normally do. As Naruto was sitting there, something caught his attention. Pure unbridled fear, coming from one person, and a small amount of fear mixed with cautious joy. These emotions were a new combination to him, and he decided to ask Kurama what this could mean. "Hey Kurama, do you sense that?" he asked in his head. Yes. It could be the kidnap victim and kidnapper. If that is the case, then they have made it past the Anbu. We should probably go check it out. Yeah, you're right. It would be right to just leave them to their fate. Not if I want to be Hokage someday. With that, he jumped off in the direction of the kidnapper. When he crossed the kidnapper's scent and caught the scent of the victim, he saw red. "Hinata-chan," he growled out. They took Hinata-chan. He was unconsciously channeling some of Kurama's chakra to his muscles to give him some extra speed as he raced in the direction of the scent. It only took him about 5 minutes to catch up with the kidnapper, and to his horror all he saw was a guy dressed in black with a sack on his back. The fear he could sense and Hinata's scent were both coming from the bag. Before the man realized he was there, Naruto had launched a kunai at the man's arm holding the sack. It was only through many years of experience that he managed to dodge the kunai. "Who did that?" asked the man, turning around and seeing no one. He was dressed in all black, the only thing showing were a pair of dark green eyes. As he was scanning the area for his attacker, another kunai came from the side. This time his eyes landed on Naruto, who was doing his best to come up with a plan now that he had been spotted. "It's just a kid? Get out of here before I kill you, kid. Quit trying to be a hero," he sneered at Naruto. He couldn't believe he thought that he would have a fight on his hands. He didn't have time to mess around with a kid. "Give back Hinata-chan," Naruto demanded, trying not to show any fear. He could feel how strong the man was and knew he would be no match for him. "Any ideas, Kurama?" he asked to the fox. "Just one, but it might hurt." "What is it?" "Flare my chakra as high as you can handle, then try to keep him busy until every ninja in the village shows up." "That sounds painful. Plus, what's going to happen after this? If you think they hate me now, wait until this is over." Naruto deadpanned back. "Do you have a better idea?" "Sadly no." With that, Naruto gathered as much of Kurama's chakra as he could take and released it all at once. Just as the fox promised, it hurt a lot. It also accomplished his goal, as every ninja in the village was awake and headed in their direction, fearing the worst. When he was hit by the chakra flare, the kidnapper's eyes went as wide as they could. He had felt chakra like this before and he wanted no part of it. Jinchuriki were bad news no matter how old they were. He was about to turn and run when he noticed that Naruto faltered a little bit, obviously in a lot of pain. He realized that he couldn't use his bijou and opted to take the boy with him or kill him to weaken Konoha. It was win-win for him. He rushed Naruto in an attempt to knock him out as quickly as possible. Kurama had meanwhile made sure Naruto's gravity and resistance seals were all the way off. With this speed boost, Naruto managed to avoid the worst of the assault but was still knocked into a tree, but was not hurt too bad. The attacker tried again, this time going for a full force kick in the stomach. He landed it but hadn't noticed the kunai in Naruto's hand. The force of the kick nearly folded Naruto in half. At the same time, Naruto had somehow tracked the incoming kick and made an attempt to stab the leg of the attacker. Due to a combination of the two, Naruto succeeded in stabbing the cloaked man in the side of the thigh. "You little brat, looks like you have to die. I can't carry you, both of you, with a hurt leg." "Oh well, not my problem," he sneered as he approached the boy, preparing to kill him. Just as he went to stab the half-conscious blonde in the heart, he was suddenly thrown back. Naruto had seen, through blurry vision, the man in black approach. He could feel pain in his stomach, but that seemed like nothing compared to the burning coming from his eyes. As the man aimed his kunai at Naruto's chest, his eyes quit burning and everything suddenly became much clearer. Time seemed to slow and he could see where the kunai would him. Out of pure instinct, he raised his hands and muttered "Shinra Tensei," only to see the masked man fly backwards. He managed to stand up and looked at the bag containing Hinata had been dropped 20 meters to the side of where the two were now facing each other. When the masked man regained his bearings and met Naruto's eyes, he felt a fear that he hadn't in a long time. The boy's eyes were red with black pupils and ripples surrounding the center. There were two tomoe on the first ripple in each eye. Having never seen or heard of this jujutsu, he decided to grab his prize and leave while he still had a chance to outrun the ninjas that were no doubt closing on their position. Looking between the boy and the bag containing the young, and most importantly unbranded, Hyuga, he made his choice and darted towards the bag. Just as he was almost there, it was suddenly gone. Naruto had seen the fear in his eyes and his brief internal debate before he bolted for the bag containing Hinata. Acting on instinct again, he pointed his hands towards the bag and whispered "Banshu Tenon." With that, the bag that had Hinata flew into his hands just before the masked ninja could grab it. Placing Hinata behind him, he pulled out his last kunai and spoke. "If you want her, you have to get through me." He tried to act brave, but his voice still came out shaky. Not wanting to waste any more time, the man charged and plunged a kunai into Naruto's left lung. He thought he had won until he felt warm liquid running down his chest and lots of pain in his throat. He had stabbed the boy, but the boy had used his single-minded focus to get him as well. The last thing the man saw was Naruto's red eyes staring down at him with pain and fear. Hinata had crawled out just in time to see Naruto get hit and stab the other ninja at the same time. As the masked man fell, Naruto fell to his knees. Before he could fall face first, Hinata caught him. "Naruto-kun." She tried to go on but was sobbing, thinking he was going to die and it was all her fault. "Hinata-chan," he got her attention, "don't tell anyone about what you are going to see." She looked at him confused but nodded nonetheless. With that, focused chakra into his medical seal, placed a glowing green over his wound, and began healing his own wound. Hinata had to blink to make sure she wasn't seeing things. When he stopped, Hinata couldn't believe her eyes. Her best friend had been dying a few minutes ago and now his fatal wound was all but healed. He was very tired and still had many cuts and scrapes, but none of them were life-threatening. She was about to ask him how he did that when Dog and Weasel showed up. For they could do more than assess the situation and the children. The Hokage and his squad of Anbu arrived on the scene. Seeing Hinata kneeling next to Naruto, who was still covered in his own blood with Dog standing between him and a dead man dressed in all black with a kunai still in his throat, he was able to put the event of what happened together pretty quick. "Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan, are you two okay?" he asked. Hinata started to speak up. "Naruto's hurt," but Naruto interrupted her. "I'm fine, Gigi. Just a few cuts and bruises, I'll be fine in the morning," he said, told the old cage while giving Hinata a pleading look that asked her to let it go for now. After speaking with Dog and getting a brief description of what he believes happened while Weasel attended to Hinata and Naruto. When they finished speaking, 2 more Anbu squads showed up, along with half the Hyuga clan. Hiruzen had the Anbu turn back all the ninjas that had come to stop the Kyuubi, saying everything was under control. While relieved, Kyoshi had a reputation to protect and couldn't have his daughter associated with the boy in front of this many members of his clan. "What happened here? Who is that man?" Kyoshi asked as the Anbu went to unmask the now-dead kidnapper. When his mask was pulled off, it was revealed to be the ambassador from Kuma that had left earlier that day after signing a new treaty with Konoha. It became immediately obvious that the treaty was a pretext to get into the village. The Hokage decided he would fill in the rest. It would appear that Naruto tracked down the Kumonin and delayed him long enough for Dog and Weasel to arrive. It also appears that the chakra surge came from when he was injured attempting to save young Hinata-chan. The Hokage explained, try to give certain details while at the same time keeping it as vague as possible. Seeing that there was more to the story but nothing he would get to hear tonight, Kyoshi decided to take his leave. "Hinata, come, we must leave. Your mother took a turn for the worst because of this and you must stay away from that boy. He is not safe," Kyoshi said while throwing an apologetic glance at Naruto, one that the Hokage caught and made a mental note to check up on later. Hinata was confused but went with her father quietly, concerned for her mother winning out over her curiosity of her father's treatment of Naruto. "Naruto-kun, I think we better talk in my office," Sarutobi said with no mirth in his voice. Naruto merely nodded and followed Hokage's office. When they got into his office, Naruto sat in a chair in front of the Hokage's desk and Hiruzen sat in his chair behind the desk. "Okay Naruto, I want the full story. I know that you did the first chakra pulse on purpose to get everyone's attention. What I want to know it how." Seeing no way around it, he spoke, "Could you ask your Anbu to leave? I only want to tell you." Hiruzen's eyes went wide. "How did you know there are Anbu in here?" Naruto just sighed and responded with, "Well, you already know I can hear their heartbeats, but I can see and smell them as well." This worried Sarutobi even more. Even he couldn't see them. He waved them out and 3 out of 4 left people in the room left. Naruto just looked at Sarutobi expectantly and got a confused look in return. "What about him?" Naruto asked while pointing to left side of his bookcase. In a flash that Naruto couldn't even see, Hiruzen had moved to where Naruto pointed and put a kunai through the man's throat, dispelling his chameleon jutsu in the process. Seeing a blank white mask with knee on it, he instantly knew who the man served. "Danzo," he ground out, always putting his nose where it doesn't belong. "Who is Danzo?" Naruto asked. "Danzo is the man who tried to adopt you over 2 years ago. This is what he wanted to turn you into," he said, pointing at the now dead root agent, figuring this would be a good opportunity to keep Naruto away from Danzo. Naruto only shuddered, glad that didn't happen to him. "Now Naruto-kun, you have only raised more questions than answered. So first off, how did you see, hear, and smell my agents?" Naruto looked to be in thought, but really he had a short conversation with Kurama. "What should I tell him?" he asked. "Everything minus my cage being unlocked, your bloodlines, my helping you, your parents seeing you on all your birthdays, you absorbing their knowledge, and any other functions that of the seal that he doesn't know about," was the response he was given. Giving an internal nod, he went back to his conversation to speaking with the Hokage. To Hiruzen it looked like he was just looking for a place to start. "Well, let's go back to the beginning. Do you want to tell me who my parents are?" Naruto asked with a smirk. "Something tells me you already know," Hiruzen countered cautiously. Naruto nodded and started to explain meeting the fox on his 5th birthday and his parents, leaving out the second and all future meetings he would have along with opening the cage. He explained how his senses got better because of the fox and he gained the abilities to sense emotions. He explained how he was stabbed by the Kumo ninja before he killed him and healed himself, being sure to leave out his eye problems. He still hadn't had a chance to speak to Kurama about that. Hiruzen interrupted him when he got to the part where he said he could see the Anbu again. "How do you see them?" he asked, curious. "Easy," Naruto started. "When someone uses the chameleon jutsu, their control is not just perfect, it leaves a small outline wherever they touch a solid object. Most people can't see well enough to notice it, but I have no problem seeing it." Nodding in understanding, he allowed Naruto to finish, then warned Naruto not to tell anyone who his parents are. "I have known for over a year and haven't said anything. Do you think I would just go start telling people that now? I don't want that kind of attention. Plus I doubt they would believe me," he finished in a sad tone. Sarutobi nodded sadly, agreeing with Naruto. As Naruto got up to leave, there was a knock at the door. The Hokage called out for the person to enter and Hiyashi Hyuga walked into the office. "Good, you are still here, Naruto-san. I wish to apologize for what I said earlier. I only did it for Hinata's safety." Hiyashi started, unsure of how to proceed without causing too much trouble for him. He wasn't allowed to say anything about the Kyuubi to Naruto, and that would make his explanation very hard. Naruto, however, stepped in and surprised him. "I know, Hiyashi-sama. Your clan elders see me as the Kyuubi." When Naruto said this, Hiyashi's eye went wide. He couldn't believe he knew. He threw a glare at Hiruzen, who put his hands up and said, "He found out on his own." Naruto gave a short version, leaving much out, but enough that he would seem truthful. "I have already spoken with Hitomi-sama about this. She told me not to take it personally and that you don't hate me. Just that you would have to act that way in front of others." "Yes, I see. Very well, I must attend to Hitomi-chan as the stress on tonight has caused her illness to accelerate. I am beginning to suspect foul play and don't want to be away from her side for too long." With that, he turned to leave before Naruto stopped him. "If all else fails, I will try something I learned on a while ago. I don't know if it will work on anybody but me, but if nothing else does, it's worth a shot," Naruto said, sounding far too mature for his age. Hiyashi nodded and left. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.